Good morning to you and welcome back. U.S. soldiers died looking for him and 5 terrorists were traded to get him back. Now, disgraced Army Sergeant Bergdahl breaking down on the stand as he gets set to learn his fate, saying, quote, "I made a horrible mistake. Saying I'm sorry is not enough. I would like everyone who searched for me to know it was never my intention for anyone to be hurt, and I never expected that to happen." Fox News contributor and retired Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz led the search for Bergdahl, and he joins us now to react. Thank you for joining us this morning. I want to first get your reaction of what you heard yesterday from Bergdahl. What did you think?
Well, I have obviously very mixed emotions about it. On the one hand, I'm glad that he is finally showing some contrition after just days ago calling the military court kangaroo courts. Excuse me, and apologizing for what he's done. I think key to the case was the testimony of a Navy SEAL and 2 Army sergeants who had life-altering injuries as a result of searching for him. On the other hand, though, he still needs to have some accountability. I still want to see him sentenced for what he did. And I think it's worth making the point that the trade that was made for Bergdahl is still having impacts on what we do all over the world. We have hostages in Syria, in Yemen, in Pakistan, and all of their captors are demanding trades, like we just saw yesterday with Kevin Weeks, an American University professor in Pakistan. They're demanding trades just like Bergdahl got, and it's really complicating our policy for all of these other folks around the world.
Now, we heard from Bergdahl. We also heard from the wife of Master Sergeant Mark Allen. Her name is Shannon. She testified, and among the many things she said is, she said, look, my husband lost a wife because now he is a caretaker. So you heard from, various people. What do you think is going to be the weighing factor here?
Well, I think this testimony is absolutely the weighing factor. I expect to see, of course, Bergdahl court-martialed, stripped of all honors and titles, stripped of his back pay, which had accumulated to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and given a dishonorable discharge. The key then is, will Judge Nance give him time served for his captivity, which it laid up against a life sentence. Look, I have no sympathy for him. I'm glad he's sorry, but he brought this on himself, and he impacted hundreds, if not thousands, of his fellow soldiers, which in my mind is unforgivable.
How much time do you think he'll end up getting?
I don't know. I just don't know where Judge Nance is going to go with this. There is precedent with a soldier who defected to North Korea, who ended up getting time served for his time in North Korea. So there is precedent there. I would not be surprised to see that.
We want to get your opinion on this as well. There was a man captured, apprehended in a special ops raid in Libya. His name is Mustafa Al-Imam. What did you think about this? Because yesterday it came out that we learned he had been, watched for years, for a long time. Why now? Why did it take this long?
Well, a few things. One, you have to have this is great, by the way. This is, if Bergdahl is justice 8 years in the making, this capture is justice 5 years in the making for the victims of Benghazi. Part of it is operational reasons of, putting boots on the ground in a place like Misrata so that you can actually snatch this individual, rather than a much easier operation of, say, having a Predator strike or a drone strike, is incredibly complicated. So I'm sure there are operational reasons, but I understand for what the reporting that's coming out that President Obama denied this operation several times. And I think we've seen from President Trump, he is not afraid to take the gloves off and go in and hold these guys accountable and pull them out of there.
Absolutely. But now one of the things that people are pretty focused on is the fact that he's en route to the United States, to Washington, D.C., not Gitmo. What's your thought on that?
Well, I'm surprised at that, given, the rhetoric from the Obama administration that Gitmo is not only going to stay open, it's open for business, which was a 180-degree change from the Obama administration. I'm not sure the legal factors there of why one decision was made versus the other. I do think it partly has to do with an evidentiary basis, and we have enough to actually prosecute him. The key with Guantanamo is that should not be the standard, where we don't detain these guys because we don't have enough evidence in a U.S. court, but we do in a military court. And so how those things are parsed are incredibly complicated.
Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz, thank you so much for joining us this morning.